Salut tout le monde! Welcome back to Unintentionally Frenchified. Today I'm here to give you the second edition of Why Are the French So... But this time I'm doing Why Are Americans So... If you missed the first edition, check it out here. The game, if we can call it that, is I'm going to type into the YouTube search bar, Why Are Americans So? And I'll do this in both French and English. And we're gonna see what the auto prediction suggests afterwards. Because normally these are the questions that are being asked the most. And so I'm going to authentically answer these questions. I have not looked at the questions ahead of time, alert, alert. So I'm hoping that none of them are too expert or something that I should have researched ahead of time, and we'll see how it goes. All right, let's get cracking. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, throw a little heart my way and subscribe right now. And otherwise, c'est parti. Okay, so I started in French last time, so I feel like this time I'll start in English. Why are Americans so obsessed with guns? I would need literally an entire video to pick apart the obsession with guns in the US, but I'm gonna keep it short and sweet. If you think about guns in the US, say like in the 1700s, it was really important to own a gun because often people lived far away from civilization. They didn't have neighbors very close by. They really needed to defend the life of their life and their families' lives, and it made a lot of sense. And so when the US was created as a country in the 1700s, well then we made sure the Second Amendment had the right of civilians to own guns. I mean, there wasn't like an army, there wasn't a police force, no one else was protecting you. Fast forward 100 years after that, and this is kind of this era where cowboys started to be really cool, like, the Western cowboys, the Western films, even think about like gangster films started to get really popular. And this is when you started to have like a real gun culture that kind of came up and it became popular and it became something that was about culture in the US and gun culture. Whenever I think about guns now in 2022, I think about what my parents always used to say to me, which is too much of a good thing is never a good thing. I think it's safe to say that the obsession with guns in the US is something we could do without in 2022. Why are American healthcare costs so high? I try on my channel to be super objective, but this is one that I'm gonna not be objective whatsoever. Healthcare costs in the US are so high because people are greedy, because corporations are greedy, and it's literally for a country that is so amazing and so fabulous to live in and so proud to be an American. Apparently, it's not a right as an American to have right to healthcare, because instead of giving that right to citizens, the US prefers to just squeeze money out of people that are absolutely desperate to save their life or save their life of loved ones. I mean, honestly, I think healthcare in the US, it's a shit show. It's an embarrassment. I mean, I don't even know what else to say. Why are they so high? I mean, that's why it's so high, because people and the government are 100% greedy. Greedy, 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 greedy. Greedy people, that's why. Little short story for you. When I was in the US, I had to go, I have a thyroid problem, I take Synthroid, I take medication every day, and my Synthroid used to cost, with insurance, I've been taking it for a long time, with insurance back in the US, I used to pay $30 per month for Synthroid, okay? When I was in France, obviously my Synthroid is covered by, universal health care that of course we pay for, but still, that is covered. And when I didn't have my health card in France to pay for it, I decided to pay out of pocket. I got 3 months supply of Synthroid out of pocket, and it cost me €5. €5. Okay, that's like $5 right now, $5, when it cost me with insurance $30 for a 1 month supply. Welcome to America, the land of opportunities. Why are Americans' houses made of wood? This is a funny one. I didn't know that would actually be a popular question, but it is something I'd noticed when I first came to Europe, because you see that the houses are done very differently, they're structured in a different way, they're designed in a different way, and then in Europe you see a lot more like concrete and brick. When Europeans were first immigrating to the US, I would just assume that there was an abundance of wood, and so that's kind of the material that they started using, and then we've just never changed a lot. But it's true that it's really random, because when you think of wood, it catches fire easily, we've got termite problems. I mean, there's just a lot of things that there's a lot of elements that make wood kind of you know, fragile in a way. So I'm surprised that we're not using more of like the concrete and brick, but I'd have to look that one up. Why are Americans' eggs white? So this is a fabulous one because this was a culture shock when I first came here. And now that I've had this shock, and so I've talked to other people about it, where I come from in the US, eggs are white, okay? The hens, they lay white eggs. Apparently, in the south of the US, eggs are more prone to be brown there. I had no idea. I've never lived in the south. When you come to Europe, eggs are brown. White eggs were predominant usually in Europe and in the US a long time ago. And at some point, there was some kind of Asian hen that came over that crossbred. And so now most of the eggs in Europe are brown. But basically, it's the exact same thing. It is literally just the type of hen that lays the egg. Taste is the same. All right, and then the fifth final one is, why are Americans so obese? This is another question that I actually do have videos about, so I can put them up here and you guys can check them out if you're interested in going into more detail. We actually talked about this question in the last video, but more of a switch. Why are the French so slim? So why are Americans so obese? There's multiple different factors to it. Like the first one is portion size. Have you guys ever seen the size of a meal in a restaurant in the US? It is ridiculous. I mean, the size of a salad. My husband has a photo of himself next to a salad that he got at like, I don't know, Cracker Barrel or something. And it was bigger than his head. I mean, the portion sizes are just insane. There's also very much this fast food culture in the US that you don't have in France. Like if you're gonna eat fast food in France, usually it's McDonald's, maybe Burger King or Quick, okay? But for the most part, it's a sandwich from a boulangerie. Like that is not the same thing as I want a big burger with an extra large fry and then I want a Coke that's so big it doesn't even fit in the holder for drinks in my car. Like it's just not the same thing. And then the third thing, of course, is the fact that, you know, the Americans tend to drive everywhere. You don't really have the walking culture that you can have in Europe, even though cars are used a lot in Europe as well. So you put all of these factors together and obesity is just generally on the rise. Okay, let's switch to the French questions here. So, pourquoi les Américains ont une voix qui grésille? I don't even know if I'm saying that word exactly correct. Grésille. Which I think means kind of like crackling. Like, why do they have like a crackle like kind of voice, I guess? It's kind of random. I never noticed that specifically. What I would say is the big difference is Americans talk from their nose. So like we have a very nasal, I definitely still have a nasal, but I think I could like make it even worse if I was talking like this. But like we really talk from our nose. And then in the French really talk from their throat, which is like how they manage to make that like rolling R sound with their throat and not their tongue like in other cultures really well. And I can't do it very well, probably because I talk more with my nose, but that's definitely a difference in the languages. But I've never really noticed that we have maybe a crackling voice, but maybe grésille doesn't really mean that. I'm sure people let us know in the comments below, but maybe that's the difference, is just like where we're talking from isn't the same. Pourquoi les Américains nous détestent? So why do Americans hate us? So I'm assuming by us, since it's in French, they're talking about the French. I wouldn't say that Americans hate the French. Of course, we all remember very recently like 9/11, and you guys all remember like freedom fries because the Americans weren't gonna call them French fries anymore, and it wasn't French toast, it was freedom toast, and like all of these type of things. I would say, like, if you think about, I actually did a class on this in college. It was more a class around stereotypes and kind of the relationship between France and the US for the last like 400 years. Basically, what it shows is that there's a lot of moments throughout history where we're allies, we fight a lot for the same causes, we're together in a lot of the different battles. But most recently, if you think in the last 100 years, there was some like surrenders by the French in World War II that, you know, Americans didn't agree with. Then you've got, you know, the French didn't agree with 9/11 and the war against Iraq. So you've just got some more recent battles where the French and the US weren't necessarily on the same page with, you know, certain things, you know, decisions that were taken or battles that happened or, you know, invasions that the US did that they didn't agree with. And so all of that has made a little bit more of some conflict like now with maybe our generation. But I would say the more that you talk to like the older generation, our grandparents, etc., I don't think you find that anti-sentiment as well. I mean, my grandfather was in France during World War II, and he was there for certain celebrations, and he has such a great memory. He pulls out his like Navy books and he shows me when he was docked in France, and I don't really think that anti-sentiment comes from an older generation, but maybe a bit some newer stuff. But in any case, we don't hate you. Love, love, love to the French. Pourquoi les Américains sont nuls en géographie? Why are Americans so terrible in geography? Good question. That is absolutely the case. Now, wait, we have to be more specific. I'm going to try to analyze the question a bit. But why are Americans so terrible in geography outside of the US? Because we do a lot and we spend a lot of time learning all of the different states, where they are on the map, what are their capitals, what are they known for, etc. I would say geography within the US is not a problem for most Americans. What I would say is geography outside is. Honestly, in school, we completely learn like general culture, we learn about world history, we learn about maps in the world. It's not as if we're not taught those things, but I don't think in our education system there's as much of an emphasis on continuing that. And what you also have to keep in mind, again, I don't have the percentage like off my head, but there are so many people that never leave the US. Like, it's such a big country. As we all know, it can be quite expensive to travel. And some people just don't have that inside of them. They don't have the curiosity to travel as much. And so because the US is so big, they tend to, focus on what's going on. They live in quite a bubble. I'm not even saying that it's a good or a bad thing. It just is what it is. And so understanding geography outside of the US isn't their strength. And then for the people that you're like meeting that are traveling abroad and everything, I would just say that the emphasis after I was in 10th grade, so I was 16, I didn't really have any classes about geography, and I wasn't, traveling a lot. So I would just kind of a bit, down to education as well. Pourquoi les Américains sont si gentils? Very, very cultural, I would say. And obviously this depends on where you go in the US. You're gonna find certain areas of the US where people are friendlier than others. I come from the Midwest. It's considered a pretty friendly place. I would say that the reason, for example, where I come from, that Americans are more friendly than the French is really just down to the fact that it's not seen as polite. It is impolite to not be friendly to a stranger. To be friendly in our culture means smiling. It means showing warmth and excitement in the way that you're talking to them. And that's just not the same case in France, I mean, of course in France it's important to be polite to someone that you don't know, but that can also mean putting on quite a wall. It can be being quite cold is okay. It's just not the case in the US. So if you're not American, or if you're not, for example, from the Midwest, where maybe we're more friendly than, say, someone from the East Coast normally, then even they can be a little bit shocked by how friendly Americans are. But in general, we have a phrase in the US, you get more with honey than you do with vinegar. So we really try to treat people with more of a smile than with more of a scowl to get things. And I would say in France, that's not really how it works. And number 5, pourquoi les Américains ont des villes catastrophes? Why do Americans have cities that are catastrophic? Well, this is not the best way to end the video, but I don't think this is a great one. I mean, I don't even know what that actually means. So I guess we're gonna end the video with 9 questions instead of 10. If any of you guys want to answer this, or maybe give us some feedback of what you think it means, why are American cities so catastrophic? Let us know. Let me know in the comments below what you guys thought of my responses to these questions. Do you agree? Do you not? I mean, let yourself go wild. I will see you in the comments below. Enjoy your August. Enjoy summer vacation if you're taking some. And I will see you la semaine prochaine. Bisous!